Money is a terrible master, but an excellent servant. The tragedy is, most people spend their lives as servants to money, instead of making money serve them. The rich discovered a secret, not of chasing dollars, but of building a formula. Earn, invest, multiply, repeat. That's the difference between surviving and truly living. You see, the journey to wealth doesn't begin with a paycheck, an inheritance, or a lucky break. It begins in the quiet recesses of your mind. Before any coin ever touches your hand, before any bank account sees a deposit, there is a thought that precedes it. Poverty begins long before it appears in your wallet. Wealth begins the moment you decide to think differently. I remember when I was a young man, struggling with debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and often wondering if I'd ever have a stable financial life. I wasn't broke because I lacked opportunity. I was broke because I had yet to understand the power of my own thinking. My thoughts were simple, reactive, and often limiting. I can't do this, I would say. I'm not capable. I don't earn enough. Those words aren't just expressions, they are seeds. And the truth is, seeds of poverty planted in the mind will grow until they manifest in your life. But the same is true for wealth. If you plant thoughts of possibility, curiosity, and ownership, they will grow into a reality that surprises even you. The first step is to understand that money is a servant, not a master. Too many people wake up in the morning and follow their money around, letting it dictate where they go, what they buy, and how they live. But if you adopt a mindset of stewardship, you realize that you are the one in charge. You control money. You tell it where to go, what purpose it serves, and how it will work for you. I learned this lesson one night, sitting at a tiny table with bills stacked high, trying to make sense of my financial chaos. I had very little, yet I realized that even a single dollar could be a worker if I treated it with respect. That night, I made a decision. No longer would I be a servant to money. Instead, I would give it a job, assign it a purpose, and direct it toward my future. That was the moment my wealth thinking began. It didn't change my bank account overnight, but it changed me. And that's where all real change starts. A practical way to begin this transformation is simple yet profound. Journal your financial thoughts. Each day, take a few minutes to write down the way you feel about money, the choices you make, and the limits you unconsciously place on yourself. Notice every "I can't" that sneaks into your mind and replace it with "How can I?" Instead of saying "I'll never be able to invest," ask, "How can I take one small step today toward building assets?" Instead of lamenting, "I don't earn enough," ask, "How can I increase my value so my income grows?" This simple habit rewires the mind, building a new framework for wealth. I recall when I first did this, I was skeptical but persistent. Within weeks, I began to notice patterns in my thinking. I saw where I sabotaged opportunities before they even arrived. I started making conscious choices, not reactive ones. Over months and years, that journaling became a mirror, reflecting not just where I was financially, but where my thinking needed to grow. Wealth is not a number on a statement. It is a reflection of your mindset, your clarity, and your willingness to take responsibility. Start small. Think about what you can control today. Plant seeds of possibility. Water them with discipline, and watch as the first signs of abundance appear. The mind is the starting point, and everything else follows. Your financial freedom begins the moment you choose to think differently. You know, many people live under the illusion that working harder is the path to wealth. They wake up early, stay late, push themselves to the limit, and think that sheer effort alone will reward them. I remember when I was starting out, I believed the same thing. I thought if I just put in more hours, if I just said yes to every job, every task, every demand, eventually the money would come. And for a while, it seemed like it might. I was busy, exhausted, and yet my financial situation barely moved. That's because effort by itself is blind. Effort without direction, without strategy, without value, often results in fatigue, frustration, and very little progress. You see, the world doesn't pay for hours, it pays for value. The richer you make the hour, the more others are willing to compensate you. Think about it this way. If you spend 10 hours doing something anyone could do, it doesn't matter how long you work, the return is limited. But if you spend 10 hours solving a problem that very few can solve, delivering something unique, your results and your rewards multiply. That's the principle that separates the majority from the few who truly build wealth. I learned this lesson the hard way when I began to observe people around me. Some weren't working more hours than I was, but they had skills that created solutions, led teams, and produced results that others couldn't replicate. And as a result, they earned more, had more freedom, and created opportunities that I didn't even know existed. The difference wasn't luck, it was value. So how do you increase your value? It starts with personal development. Identify skills that solve bigger problems and make yourself indispensable. These are the skills that command higher rewards. Skills like sales, communication, leadership, or financial literacy. Skills that allow you to influence, inspire, and create results that matter. I remember when I first committed to this, I chose one skill to focus on, financial literacy, and dedicated just 30 minutes a day to mastering it. It wasn't about cramming or trying to become an expert overnight. It was about consistent, daily improvement. Over time, those small investments in myself compounded, just like money in a good investment account. My ability to negotiate, to lead, to recognize opportunities, and to make better financial decisions increased. The returns were not immediate, but they were inevitable. And here's the beauty of it. Increasing your value doesn't just benefit your bank account, it changes your life. When you focus on becoming exceptional, the work becomes easier, your confidence grows, and doors you never thought possible begin to open. You begin to see opportunities that others miss because you can solve problems they cannot. You realize that your worth is not measured by the hours you put in, but by the impact you create. I remember when I started applying this principle consistently, people began seeking me out, projects came to me, and suddenly, the small efforts I made each day were producing far more than I had imagined possible. So, don't get trapped in the busy work of life. Don't confuse motion with progress. Work smarter by increasing your value. Pick a skill, dedicate time to mastering it, and watch as the rewards multiply naturally. Every day, invest in yourself. Make your hours richer, and the world will pay you accordingly. Your wealth grows not from labor alone, but from the value you bring in to every hour you invest. You see, many people believe that having a steady job is the key to financial security. They think that as long as they punch the clock and collect their paycheck each month, everything will be fine. But let me tell you something I've learned through years of experience. Relying on a single paycheck is like standing on one leg in the middle of a storm. It's unstable, risky, and sooner or later, the winds of life will test you. I remember my early days, working a job I thought was secure. I followed all the rules, did what was expected, and yet I constantly felt a knot of worry in my stomach. One small, unexpected expense, one sudden change, and I realized just how fragile my financial footing truly was. That's when the truth hit me. Wealth is not built on a single source of income. The rich think differently. They know that financial freedom is not about how much money comes into one account, but about how many streams of money flow into their life. Think of your income like a table. A table with just one leg is useless. It can't stand. A table with 4 strong legs, job income, investments, side hustle, and passive income, is steady, resilient, and capable of holding far more than just survival. I remember when I first began to apply this principle in my life. I didn't have a fortune to start with, but I did have a job and the desire to create more. I started looking for opportunities, even small ones, to add another leg to my financial table. The strategy is simple. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Begin with what you have. Perhaps your job is your first leg. That's fine. The next leg could be investments. I started by putting small amounts of money into low-risk assets, letting them grow while I continued working. The third leg could be a side hustle. Maybe you have a skill you can monetize, or a passion that can generate cash. I remember launching my first small venture, just a modest consulting service with no fancy office, no big advertising budget, just a simple offer to help people solve a problem. That side hustle, small as it was at first, began to teach me lessons about entrepreneurship, value creation, and discipline that no paycheck ever could. And the fourth leg, passive income, is what transforms security into freedom. It could be royalties from a book, dividends from investments, or a small business that runs without constant attention. Each additional leg strengthens the table. Each new stream makes your financial life less dependent on chance or circumstance. Here's the practical step you can take today. Pick one small side hustle, just one, and begin. It doesn't have to be perfect. Freelancing, consulting, selling a product online, creating content. Choose something that matches your skills and interests. Treat it like planting a seed. The first few months may seem slow, but every dollar you earn and reinvest into assets is another brick in your foundation. Reinvesting is critical. Don't just enjoy the first profits. Put them back into something that multiplies, something that grows while you sleep, so that over time, the income from that small effort compounds into real wealth. I remember the day I realized the power of multiple streams. I had a small side project generating a little extra money, an investment account slowly growing, and my main job. That combination gave me choices I never had before. If one leg faltered, the others kept me steady. For the first time, I felt true control over my life. And that feeling, that freedom, is priceless. It's not about extravagance or status. It's about resilience, stability, and the confidence to take the next step towards your dreams. So don't wait for luck. Don't hope that one paycheck will carry you to financial freedom. Build multiple streams of income, even starting small, and reinvest wisely. That table, that strong foundation, will carry you through storms and allow you to stand tall no matter what life throws your way. Your wealth grows strongest when your income flows from many sources, not just one. You know, I've seen countless people struggle with their finances, not because they didn't have the ability, not because they weren't intelligent, but because they relied too much on willpower. Willpower is a fragile thing. It's like trying to row a boat against a strong current with only your arms. Some days you're strong and the boat moves, and other days exhaustion sets in and you drift backward. I remember early in my career, I told myself, I will save $50 every week. I felt motivated, committed, determined. For 3 weeks, I kept the promise. Then life happened, a late bill, an unexpected expense, and suddenly the resolve crumbled. I didn't fail because I was lazy. I failed because I relied on something inconsistent. My mood, my energy, my willpower. That was when I realized something profound. Systems beat willpower every single time. Think about it. Success isn't about heroics or extraordinary feats. Success is nothing more than a few disciplines practiced consistently. Failure, on the other hand, is just a few errors in judgment repeated daily. I began to notice patterns in my life and in the lives of those around me. The wealthy didn't rely on brute force willpower or waiting for the perfect moment. They built systems, simple, automatic, reliable processes that made success inevitable. The same dollars that slipped through my fingers when I tried to save manually were suddenly building into real wealth when I put a system in place. Systems don't forget. Systems don't get tired. Systems don't get bored. Systems execute consistently, day after day, week after week, regardless of how you feel. The strategy is clear. Remove the human element from the repetitive parts of wealth building. Automate savings, automate investments, automate contributions to retirement funds. Think of it as setting up a machine that works while you sleep. The first time I did this, I remember setting up automatic transfers from my paycheck into a savings account, then into an investment fund, and finally into a retirement account. I didn't even have to think about it. The money left my account without asking permission, and in return, I received peace of mind, a sense of control, and the satisfaction that my future was being taken care of without daily struggle. That's the power of systems. Practical steps are simple but transformational. First, open dedicated accounts for each goal: savings, investments, retirement, even charitable giving. Second, set up automatic transfers to those accounts every payday. Even if it's just a small amount, consistency over time compounds into results far beyond what mere discipline can achieve. Third, review the system periodically, not to micromanage, but to ensure the structure remains aligned with your goals. That's it. The key is that the system takes the heavy lifting off your shoulders. You no longer need to rely on motivation, willpower, or decision-making every week. The system keeps you on track. I remember sharing this principle with a friend early on. He laughed and said, "Automation? That seems too simple. Isn't discipline enough?" I smiled and said, "Discipline is great, but systems don't forget. Systems don't slip." Systems do the work when discipline falters. Within a year of implementing a simple automated system, he saw his savings grow, his investments increase, and his stress about money diminish. What used to feel like a struggle became effortless. The system did the heavy lifting. He simply showed up, trusted the process, and watched his wealth grow. You see, relying solely on willpower is like trying to catch rain in your hands. It works for a moment, but the moment passes. Systems, on the other hand, are like a well-built reservoir. They collect, store, and grow wealth consistently. Set them up today. Let automation handle the discipline, and then focus your energy on increasing your value, building assets, and multiplying opportunities. That's how ordinary people step into extraordinary financial freedom. Your future isn't built on how motivated you feel today. It's built on systems that work whether you feel like it or not. I want to talk to you about something that too many people overlook when chasing wealth: the power of your own mind. You see, formal education is valuable. It can teach you a trade, a profession, a way to earn a living. But if you want to create real, lasting wealth, you need more than what schools can offer. That's where self-education comes in. I learned early in my life that the most successful people weren't always the ones with the best grades or the fanciest diplomas. They were the ones who refused to stop learning. They understood a simple truth: knowledge compounds just like money. The more you feed your mind with wisdom, strategy, and practical insights, the more capable you become of creating, preserving, and multiplying wealth. I remember when I first started, I had very little. My bank account was almost empty. My debts felt overwhelming, and opportunities seemed scarce. But I had access to something more powerful than money, my mind. I decided to dedicate time every single day to studying how wealth is created, maintained, and multiplied. At first, it was just 30 minutes. 30 minutes reading a book about business, listening to a lecture on investing, or studying the habits of people who had already succeeded. Some nights, I was tired. Some nights, I wanted to watch television or distract myself. But I committed to feeding my mind, even in small increments. Those 30 minutes became a ritual, and over months and years, the knowledge accumulated, building a mental bank account that paid dividends far beyond what any paycheck could provide. Philosophically, self-education is about empowerment. The world is constantly changing. Markets shift, technologies evolve, and new opportunities emerge. If your mind is stagnant, you become a passenger in life, reacting to circumstances instead of creating them. But if your mind is alive with learning, you begin to see possibilities where others see obstacles. You understand patterns, anticipate risks, and recognize opportunities before they become obvious. Knowledge becomes a tool, a bridge from where you are to where you want to go. It multiplies your earning potential, strengthens your decision-making, and shields you from costly mistakes. The strategy is simple but not always easy. Commit to a daily discipline of learning. Treat your mind like fertile soil. What you plant, it will grow. If you plant negativity, distractions, and superficial information, you'll harvest struggles. If you plant principles, strategies, and proven wisdom, you'll harvest growth and wealth. I've seen people spend hours consuming entertainment, scrolling endlessly, or getting lost in trivial distractions. And yet, with just a small shift, replacing even 30 minutes of mindless consumption with purposeful study, they transformed their trajectory entirely. They became capable of seeing opportunities others missed, speaking with confidence in business negotiations, and making decisions that multiplied their income. Practical steps are straightforward. Set aside 30 minutes each day, morning, evening, whenever your mind is freshest, and dedicate it to self-education. Read books that challenge you, podcasts that inspire you, or biographies of people who have built wealth through ingenuity, discipline, and strategy. Take notes, reflect. Apply what you learn immediately in your own financial decisions. Even small daily investments in your knowledge compound over time, just as $1 invested regularly grows exponentially through interest. Over months, the cumulative effect is astonishing. Your thinking shifts, your confidence rises, and your ability to recognize and seize opportunities expands. I recall mentoring a young man who was working a modest job. He felt trapped and frustrated. I suggested he spend 30 minutes every day learning about personal finance and investing. A year later, he had not only started a side business but also invested wisely, creating a new stream of income. The daily habit of feeding his mind produced results that would have taken him decades, relying solely on income from his job. Knowledge, like money, compounds when handled consistently. Your mind is the ultimate wealth-building asset. Feed it daily. Learn, reflect, and apply. Over time, you'll discover that the decisions you make, the opportunities you seize, and the wealth you create are directly proportional to the wisdom you cultivate. Wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in your bank account. Let me share with you something that many people overlook when they think about wealth. They believe wealth is about accumulation, about how much you have stored in the bank or invested in assets. But the truth is, wealth is not real wealth until it's shared. You see, money alone can buy comfort, security, even influence. but it doesn't multiply its power until it's used to teach, guide, and inspire others. The act of sharing knowledge, experience, and principles not only changes the lives of those you reach, but it strengthens your own understanding and discipline in ways nothing else can. Early in my career, I was obsessed with figuring out how to make my own life better. I read, I studied, I tracked every dollar, and I tried to implement everything I learned. But I noticed something remarkable when I began to talk about these lessons with others. I remember sitting at a small kitchen table with a friend who was struggling financially. I shared a principle I had learned about saving a percentage of every paycheck before spending anything else. As I explained it, something curious happened. The idea became much clearer to me. The discipline I had been trying to maintain for myself suddenly had new weight because I was now responsible for helping someone else understand it too. Teaching is not just about giving, it's about reinforcing. Philosophically, teaching multiplies wealth because it forces you to practice what you preach. You can read 100 books about investing, budgeting, or building assets, but until you articulate it to someone else, until you answer their questions and guide them through their doubts, the knowledge doesn't fully anchor. When you share, when you explain, when you mentor, the principles move from theory into behavior. And that behavior, repeated consistently, compounds just like money. You begin to see that wealth is not a static number. It is a force that grows through your influence and the positive change you create in others. The strategy is clear. Use accountability and mentorship to keep yourself on track while lifting those around you. Align yourself with someone who can learn from you, or find someone who is further ahead and can guide you. Set up a system where weekly or monthly discussions happen, where principles are shared, experiences are exchanged, and goals are reviewed. This duality, both teaching and learning, creates a cycle that strengthens financial habits and encourages consistency. The person you teach gains knowledge, and you gain clarity, confidence, and reinforcement of your own discipline. Over time, the impact extends far beyond the immediate circle, creating ripples that can last generations. Practical steps are surprisingly simple. Commit to sharing one financial principle every week. It could be with a friend, a colleague, a child, or even a small community group. It could be as simple as the importance of paying yourself first, or tracking every dollar, or avoiding unnecessary debt. When you explain it to someone else, ask questions, explore scenarios, and make them think. As you do this, you solidify your own habits. The principle moves from knowledge into behavior, from thought into action. I remember mentoring a young man who had never saved more than a few dollars at a time. Each week, I would share a small principle with him, and he would practice it and report back. But in teaching him, I found myself held accountable to the same principles. I could no longer let excuses dictate my actions because someone else was relying on my example. And over time, I watched not only his life transform, but mine as well. The wealth we both built was magnified, not just in money, but in understanding, discipline, and confidence. Wealth, when shared, becomes more than a personal achievement. It becomes a culture, a philosophy, a legacy. By teaching, mentoring, and holding others accountable while holding yourself accountable in return, you multiply the impact of your money, your knowledge, and your habits. Every principle you share strengthens your own practice, and every success you witness in others reinforces your commitment to building more. That, my friends, is how wealth truly multiplies, through the power of giving, teaching, and lifting others as you climb. Let me tell you something about wealth that most people never fully grasp. Real wealth is never built in isolation. It is not about hoarding, not about taking more than your fair share, and certainly not about chasing personal gain without consideration for others. The truth is, the foundation of lasting wealth is service. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. I learned this principle early on, and it changed the way I thought about work, business, and even life itself. When I first started my career, I thought the way to earn more was to simply work harder, put in longer hours, or chase bigger deals. And for a while, that seemed to work, but the results were inconsistent, and the stress was overwhelming. Then I began to notice a pattern in the lives of those who were truly successful. The people who built wealth consistently, year after year, weren't just working harder, they were serving better. They were creating value for others in a way that solved real problems, met real needs, and delivered tangible results. And here's the key: the bigger the problem they solved, the bigger the reward they received in return. Philosophically, this makes perfect sense. Money is a reward for value, for solutions, for helping others achieve what they want. You see, the marketplace doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards results. And results are the outcome of serving people well. The more meaningful, the more urgent, the more significant the problem you solve, the greater the value others place on your service. It's a natural law, just like gravity or compound interest. Serve more, solve bigger problems, and wealth flows as a byproduct. The strategy is simple but powerful. Focus on solving bigger problems. Think beyond your paycheck, beyond small tasks or routine responsibilities. Look for ways to make a difference in the lives of your customers, your colleagues, or your community. Ask yourself, what is the pressing need here, and how can I meet it better than anyone else? When you take this approach, work transforms from something you do for money into an opportunity to create impact. And the income, the opportunities, and the recognition you receive are just the natural reflection of the value you've contributed. Practical steps are surprisingly accessible. Start by identifying one way you can create more value this week. At your job, in your business, or even within your community. Maybe it's a new idea that saves time or money for your company. Perhaps it's a small innovation that improves a client's experience. Or maybe it's mentoring someone, sharing knowledge, or streamlining a process that others struggle with. Track what you do and observe how that effort influences your income, your relationships, or the opportunities that come your way. Over time, you'll see a pattern emerge. The more value you add, the more your financial and personal life grows in tandem. I remember a time when I was consulting with a small business owner. He was frustrated because his profits were stagnant, even though he worked tirelessly every day. I suggested he focus not just on his daily tasks, but on solving his clients' deeper problems. He developed a solution that saved his customers hours of work every week. Within months, his income rose significantly. His client retention increased, and new opportunities came knocking. What changed? He shifted from a mindset of effort to a mindset of service. He stopped asking, "How much can I earn?" and started asking, "How much can I help others achieve?" And in that shift, wealth followed naturally. So, if you want to build wealth that lasts, stop thinking about what you can take and start thinking about what you can give. Look for problems to solve, opportunities to create value, and ways to lift others while you grow. Wealth is not a trophy for yourself. It is a reflection of the good you bring to the world. Solve bigger problems, serve with purpose, and watch the universe reward you with more than you ever imagined. Let me share something with you that most people resist hearing, yet it is the bedrock of true financial freedom. Never spend more than you earn. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but the truth is, very few live by it. Why? Because Discipline requires effort, while regret only weighs a little less than a ton once it arrives. I've learned through my own life and through watching thousands of people that financial peace isn't about luck or the size of your paycheck. It's about control, restraint, and the choices you make every single day. Philosophically, wealth is the natural result of discipline. Discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. I can tell you from personal experience that a few small sacrifices today can prevent a lifetime of stress tomorrow. When I was starting out, I had more month than money, more often than I care to admit. I was tempted by every new gadget, every fancy meal, and every shiny object that promised comfort or status. But then I realized something powerful. Every dollar I spent unnecessarily was a soldier taken off the battlefield of my future. Every indulgence was a brick removed from the foundation of my financial house. Discipline, I realized, wasn't deprivation. It was empowerment. It allowed me to control my money instead of letting my money control me. The strategy is equally straightforward. The wealthy don't spend everything they make. They live below their means deliberately, and that gap between income and expenditure is what fuels growth. Living below your means is not about being cheap. It's about prioritizing. It's about making sure that your money works for you rather than you working for it. It's the quiet, daily choice to defer instant gratification in favor of long-term freedom. And here's the secret. When you consistently spend less than you earn, opportunities open up that were previously invisible. Savings accumulate. Investments compound. Choices multiply. You're no longer shackled to a paycheck. You're building a foundation for your future self. Practically, I recommend applying a simple system, the 7-0-2-0-1-0 rule. Live on 70% of your income. Invest 20% into yourself, your knowledge, your business, or financial instruments that create more wealth. And give 10% to causes, charity, or others in need. This isn't arbitrary. The 70% ensures you cover your necessities while still enjoying life responsibly. The 20% is the engine of growth, money that works on your behalf and compounds quietly over time. And the 10% reminds you that wealth isn't just about accumulation, it's about contribution, about creating a cycle of abundance that strengthens your own character as well as your community. As your wealth grows, adjust these percentages. Perhaps you increase investments to 30% or more. But the principle remains, never spend everything. Always leave room for growth, and always leave room for generosity. I remember when I first started implementing this system, I didn't earn much at all, but I committed to living on less than I made. I tracked every dollar, resisted impulse purchases, and started setting aside even the smallest amounts for investing in myself and my future. At first, it felt limiting. I wanted the things everyone else had, but over time, that restraint became freedom. I wasn't just surviving, I was building. I had a sense of control that many of my peers lacked, and that sense of control is priceless. Wealth is not about flashy cars or luxurious vacations. Those are temporary pleasures. True wealth is peace of mind. It's the confidence that no matter what happens, you can handle it. It's the ability to see opportunity and seize it without being enslaved by debt or lifestyle inflation. And it all starts with the simple, unglamorous habit of spending less than you earn every day, consistently. Discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. Choose to live within your means, invest wisely, give generously, and your wealth will multiply quietly, steadily, and powerfully. Let me tell you something that most people overlook in the excitement of earning and investing. Building wealth is only half the battle. The other half, the part that determines whether your efforts endure, is protection. Wealth is like a garden. You can plant seeds, water them, and watch sprouts emerge, but if you neglect the weeds, ignore pests, or leave it unguarded against storms, all that growth can vanish overnight. I've seen it happen more times than I care to count. Someone works diligently for years, accumulates savings, investments, a thriving business, and then one careless decision erases it all. That's why protecting your wealth isn't optional, it's essential. Philosophically, we have to remember that wealth is fragile. It is not just about accumulation, it's about stewardship. One of the hardest lessons I learned early in my life was that success without caution is like a house built on sand. You can have all the money in the world, but if it's unprotected, unstable, or mismanaged, it slips through your fingers faster than you can imagine. Every dollar saved, every investment made, every effort toward financial independence is like a seedling in your garden, and every reckless choice, overspending, chasing risky speculation, accumulating debt, succumbing to lifestyle inflation, is a storm that can uproot everything. Guarding your wealth requires vigilance, foresight, and restraint. The strategy is simple but profound. Avoid reckless speculation, resist debt traps, and don't let lifestyle creep undo your progress. Wealth multiplies over time, but it can disappear in a single impulsive move. Many people believe that because they earn more, they can spend more, or because they invest in high-risk opportunities, they are accelerating wealth. The truth is, reckless risk without knowledge or preparation is not investment, it's gambling. And gambling doesn't create freedom. It creates anxiety, loss, and sometimes ruin. Similarly, lifestyle inflation, the gradual increase in spending as income rises, is a silent thief. People celebrate raises and bonuses by immediately expanding their expenses, thinking they're enjoying the fruits of labor, but in reality, they're just maintaining the same financial position they had before, sometimes worse. Protecting your wealth means saying no to instant gratification, even when it's tempting. It means prioritizing the long term over the short term, stability over temporary pleasure. Practically, you can implement a simple yet powerful habit. Pause before any financial decision. Give yourself 24 hours. Before spending, investing, or committing, ask a simple question. Does this grow, protect, or waste my wealth? Only act on the first two. If it doesn't add to your garden or shield it from harm, don't do it. I remember a time early in my career when I was tempted by an investment opportunity that seemed flashy and promising. Without pausing, I almost jumped in, only to realize that I didn't fully understand the risk. Taking a day to reflect, I chose not to act. That decision saved me not only money, but years of effort, stress, and uncertainty. The power of that 24-hour pause cannot be overstated. It allows clarity, prevents impulsive decisions, and builds a habit of protection that compounds alongside your wealth. Protection also means understanding insurance, risk management, and emergency planning. Life is unpredictable. Illness, accidents, market downturns, these are realities that can strike at any time. Guarding your wealth isn't paranoia, it's preparation. A strong financial garden has not just growing plants, but fences, irrigation, and a plan for pests and storms. Without these safeguards, even the most beautiful garden can be destroyed in a single night. Remember, your goal isn't merely to earn or accumulate, it's to create a legacy that endures. Protecting wealth is as important as creating it, because the most disciplined saving and the smartest investing mean little if a single mistake can wipe out everything. Guard it, nurture it, plan for storms, and watch as your financial garden flourishes year after year. Let me share a truth that most people overlook when it comes to wealth. If you want to grow it, you must treat it like a business. Too many people think that money is just something to spend, save, or stash away. But wealth is not a passive entity, it is a living system. And every dollar you earn is an employee. How you assign these employees, how you manage them, and how you evaluate their performance determines whether your financial future flourishes or flounders. I learned this the hard way in my early years, watching people around me scramble, work tirelessly, yet never see real growth simply because they didn't treat money as an asset that needed leadership, strategy, and direction. Philosophically, think about this. Every dollar has a job. You wouldn't hire a worker and leave them to wander aimlessly without tasks, expectations, or oversight. The same applies to your money. Each dollar can either be a diligent contributor to your future, quietly compounding, growing, and creating opportunity, or it can be idle, wasted on fleeting pleasures and instant gratification. Treating wealth like a business is about instilling discipline, accountability, and intention. When you give your money purpose, when you direct it with strategy, it starts to generate returns, and over time, those returns build momentum that no casual spending or random saving ever will. The strategy is straightforward yet transformative. Track every aspect of your financial life as if it were a company. Income isn't just a number on a paycheck, it's revenue. Expenses aren't casual spending, they're costs. Profits are the money that remains after obligations, and losses are anything that diminishes your ability to grow. If you start thinking like a CEO for your life, suddenly, the way you handle money changes. Decisions aren't emotional or impulsive. They are calculated, purposeful, and aligned with long-term objectives. Just like a company would review quarterly results, adjust strategies, and plan for growth, you must do the same with your finances. Practically, you can begin this process today. Set aside a time each month for a financial review meeting with yourself. Gather all your income statements, bills, and investment summaries. Write a simple profit and loss sheet for your life. List what came in, what went out, and what is left to work for you. Evaluate which employees of your money are underperforming. Perhaps there's an account that isn't earning interest, a subscription that drains resources without value, or a habit of impulsive spending that slowly erodes your balance. Just like a CEO would, make adjustments, reallocate funds, cut costs, and direct capital toward areas that multiply wealth rather than consume it. I remember the first time I conducted a financial review for myself. I was shocked at how much money I had allowed to slip away unnoticed. Small purchases, overlooked bills, and untracked habits had quietly undermined my progress. But once I wrote it all down, I could see patterns, identify leaks, and assign clear tasks for each dollar. Some money went into emergency savings, some into investments, and some into education and growth. Every dollar had a purpose, a mission, and over time, those decisions compounded. The business of my wealth began to grow steadily, predictably, and without constant stress. Treating wealth like a business also builds confidence. When you see results on paper, when you understand exactly where your resources are going, you feel control. You no longer react emotionally to every financial decision. Instead, you lead with strategy, foresight, and clarity. This is the mindset that separates those who live paycheck to paycheck from those who create lasting financial independence. Wealth becomes a system, a team, and a machine working for you. Remember, money alone doesn't create freedom. How you manage it does. Lead it, direct it, and hold it accountable. Treat it like a business, and your future profits will not just grow, they will multiply. As we draw this journey to a close, remember this: wealth is not luck, a sudden windfall, or a secret hidden from you. It is built step by step, thought by thought, decision by decision. Every action you take today, how you earn, how you invest, how you multiply, and how you repeat shapes your future. Take control, treat your money like a business, feed your mind daily, and create systems that work even when you don't. Start small, act consistently, and think big. The path is clear, the tools are in your hands. Begin now and let your wealth work for you.